Finish him!
Oi maamme Suomi synnyinmaa.
Welcome to the Milsurp Mic channel. I believe it was about a year ago when Insight Freedom asked for video responses for a giveaway about one of our favorite things. I used that opportunity to try to introduce you to Sabaton, one of my favorite bands. Basically, if you ever wanted somebody to make songs like Johnny Horton, but in a rock or metal genre, they're your band. They are currently doing a collaboration with Indy Nidell, going over a history of their songs, and this week on a Sabaton history, they talk about the Winter War and Sabaton songs Talvisota. In my last shooting outing, I took a semi-auto build of a firearm whose greatest use came in the Winter and Continuation Wars, and what is admittedly a bit of self-promotion making this video on the heels of Sabaton History's release, I go over the history of the Suomi KP-31 submachine gun and review my TNW semi-auto build. Prior to the Winter War, the matchup between the Soviet Union versus Finland looked like an easy win for the Soviets. The Finns were outmanned and outgunned, but they were much better prepared for Arctic fighting against the woefully unprepared Soviets, using the terrain and general knowledge of the land to pick the Soviets off. One of my favorite history professors, Dr. John Daly at Pittsburgh State University, who is also a god among men, told about a meeting with a Soviet tanker veteran of the Winter War, a major feat since not many survived that conflict. He told us stories of how the Finns would dynamite the ice of the lakes just enough to weaken it, but not enough so that you can tell that it was damaged. Soviet tank columns would roll onto these lakes, and the weight would be enough to sink through the damaged ice, turning these tanks into metal coffins. After college, I read about the likes of White Death, Simo Häyhä, one of history's deadliest snipers, as well as the man who we in America call Larry Thorne. Sabaton made songs about both of these guys, by the way. Not only did I gain immense respect for the outnumbered Finns, but for one well-built machine gun that both these men used to great effect. The Suomi Konepistoli, literally translated as Finland Machine Pistol, Model 31, referred to here on out as the Suomi or the KP-31. The Suomi is the brainchild of Emil Lottie, the same man who created the Lottie pistol I previously made a video on. He bought his first rifle at the age of 13 and would often visit his local gunsmith to investigate the mechanism and becoming familiar with weapon mechanisms in general. He served his conscription in 1918 and 1919 and joined the Finnish army as a master armorer in 1921. After surveying the Bergmann MP-18, he began work on a simplified and more reliable submachine gun. The first prototype came out in 1922 and about 200 were produced. In 1926, he made an updated version the Finns considered a light machine gun, the LS-26, which fired the 7.65 by 22mm round. While finding time to update the Finnish Mosin Nagant rifle, the Model 27, he came out with the machine gun that he was most famous for, the KP-31, which fired the 9x19 Parabellum or Luger, whichever you refer to calling it, round. This heavy, all-steel and wood gun was a blowback and select fire gun. It was fed by either a quad-stack 50-round coffin magazine or a drum. The original drums held 40 rounds, but were quickly redesigned to hold 71 rounds. It was a very high rate of fire with low recoil, great for troops on skis. Most importantly, it had a quick-change barrel which helped in intense gunfights. Later, Swedish designs would create the 36-round stick mags, one of which you'll see me use in my shooting footage. After falling victim to well-trained use of the submachine gun, the Soviet Union copied many aspects of the Suomi in the PPSH-41 and later the 43. It was the massive production and use of these submachine guns that helped the Soviet Union defeat the Germans in close combat. After the end of the Continuation War in 1944, Finland was run by the Soviet-dominated Allied Occupation Council. Many Finns walked a tightrope as it looked like the Soviets would attempt to make Finland a puppet state like they eventually did other Eastern Bloc nations. Lottie was forced into retirement. He received a Major General's pension until his death. Finnish heroes of the Winter and Continuation Wars had to really be careful, as hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers killed were fresh in some of the Soviet puppet masters' memories, while quislings and secret police made it hard to trust anyone. Many fled to the United States, including Lori Allen Turney, to be part of the start of various Special Forces units. Still, there were thousands of Suomis as well as other weapons hidden all over Finland, and the prospect of fighting a guerrilla war against the hardy Finns led the Soviets and their puppets to leave them alone, as well as the secret police going away. Maybe there's something to this whole government fearing the populace who is armed and knows how to use this arms thing. Since I don't own any NFA items, I should talk about my Suomi example. It is a TNW build. TNW made semi-auto versions with longer barrels as not to run afoul of the NFA. Some of the modifications include replacing the original striker-fired system with a newly designed hammer-fired system in the conversion to semi-automatic. The original TNW conversions had a striker-fired system, but this was changed to ensure more reliable primer strikes. TNW also parkerized the metal instead of the original blue to help keep costs down. Although they don't ship these out anymore, as something like Suomi part kits would be a diminishing supply, they originally shipped with two 71-round drums and one 36-round stick magazine. I found mine at a local gun store last year, selling for about 2/3 of what I've seen them sell for on Gunbroker, so I jumped on it. The most noticeable thing about this firearm is the weight. I've handled many old Milsurp rifles, and empty, this is as heavy, if not heavier, than those rifles loaded. Add the drum and it is quite a bit of heft. The stick mag could use a new spring, as it didn't want to fire more than 10 rounds without misfeeding. One of the drums needs a lot of work, so my review is mostly from the one perfectly working drum. And this is fun to shoot. The heft of the gun makes for absolutely no recoil of the 9mm range ammo. This was easy to shoulder and accurate out to the 50 yards I was shooting. Of course, in honor of Tim from the Military Arms Channel, I had to 80s hip fire it. Although a reproduction made from some original parts, this has to be one of the best submachine gun replicas out there, as I've had problems with the PPS-43C and GSG's MP40. If you like my content, please comment, like, and subscribe. Also, please check out my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and who I support on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.
Will the 80s hip fire?